Hi everybody, welcome back to Daily Endeavours for the 14th of May. It's a 15 seal set. As always, there'll be timestamps in the description if you want to skip through to one of these options and just like don't care about the rest, you know. So we've got crafting with Enchanting, we've got afflicting enemies with weapon poisons, killing a player in Cyrodiil, defeating 40 enemies, and then 2 stages in the Infinite Archive. It's a pretty good set. Everything here is base game, so pretty easy to do. I would say doing 40 enemies, stages, and weapon poisons at the same time. These can be pretty good. If you want to avoid the weapon poisons, so you can just craft some stuff with craft some glyphs. I wouldn't do this one just purely on the basis that these 4 here you can do on your own, whereas this one here you need a player. So you know how players can be. Sometimes they're very unpredictable, whereas you know yourself that you yourself can be reliable. So I just like to do... Anytime there's like ones you can do on your own, I just prefer those. So I will talk about this one a little bit later, but yeah, I think this is definitely the worst option here. Is that my cat? Alright, just give me 1 sec. Cat's angry. Alright, sorry. Wait. So I'll just talk how to do these 2 here. I'm going to talk a fair bit about prep, because with these ones here or these ones here, just depends on which one you want to do. You do this one while you do Infinite Archive, when you do the stages, or you do this one outside. So, weapon poisons, what you want to do for prep is just come to any alchemist. You're just going to need 10 poisons. Now, what you can do here is just buy some poisons from alchemists. You can buy as many as you want. 10 of these, though, for 400 gold, that's a fair bit. I guarantee most people have a ton of the crown poisons in the inventory, like these, for example. These come pretty frequently from the daily rewards each month. So as you can see here, there's a bunch of crown lethal poisons here. I don't think there's been any yet, other than that. But yeah, if you've been playing this game for a bit, you'll probably have some. You can make some yourself. You can get them off dead enemies, or what you could also do is, if you have a low level character, you can buy the poisons off them because they're cheaper per item when they're lower level ones. They're weaker, but the damage isn't the important bit. It's just being able to fire off poisons. And then if you want to do the crafting with alchemy one, enchanting table is where you need to go. And you just need 3 things. So you need a green rune, the essence runes. You need a blue one. We need 4 of each because it's 4 items. So you need 4 of each of these. So you need 4 essence runes. You need 4 blue ones, the potency runes. And then you need 4 aspect runes. If you're not very high level in Enchanting, the only ones you're going to be able to use are for the aspect runes are Jojota and Ta. These are the... If I were to look for these, I'd go Jojota because they're actually a lot cheaper. The reason for this is Ta is actually used for writs, so whereas Jojota isn't. So Jojota is actually like the most disposable one kind of thing. So that's why they're so cheap. But they can still be used at level 1. So I'd go Jojota. I'd go basically any essence runes you can find on guild stores that isn't Heikeijo or Indeco, because those things are utterly ridiculous how expensive they can be. And then for blue ones, you can find them on guild stores, but you have, if you go to the enchanter, so this one here, enchanters give you infinite sources of the blue ones, so all you need to do is just go just buy whichever one you need. If you're level 1, Jorah and Jode, these are going to be the level 1 runes. And it doesn't matter which one you use, because what happens is, what these will do is they'll change what type of rune it is. Reduce makes them negative, so they reduce damage taken or reduce stats when you put them on like weapon enchants and shit like that, whereas the Jorah ones are positive, so they will always be like add stats or like do damage and whatever. So yeah, it doesn't matter. These 2 are the ones you can use no matter what, though. They're the level 1 blue runes. So yeah, just get those. And yeah, the other ones, probably just buy a stack of green essence runes on a guild store somewhere, like any of these ones here. And then, yeah, just buy a stack of Jojota. And whenever these come up, you just buy the blue ones from the enchanters, these people who are here, and then just craft them whenever you need. So yeah, and then when you go into the enchanting table, all you need is just go bang bang and then bang, or this one, and then you just craft it. And if you don't know them yet, you'll just learn them. You won't be able to craft more than one if you don't know what the runes do. Once you do once you know what they all are, it'll actually let you increase the quantity. It's just that I got one Jojota, that's why I can't increase it. So you can craft them all in one stack and just make it super quick. Yeah. Anything more than that, I think, is just like it's just complicating it. You can deconstruct glyphs in your inventory and try and get some runes from them, but they're not always usable. And you can use Donato if you can't find any Jojota, stuff like that. But yeah, just keep it simple there, I think. Yeah, if you're looking for stuff in guild stores, just go down to materials, enchanting, and then you can choose which type of runestone you need. So as you can see in this case, there's tons of Jojota available. Are there any stacks of... Oko is one I probably wouldn't go with, because they're way more expensive than other ones, because Oko is like one of the... It's one of the runes used in writs, so it's actually quite sought after. So yeah, probably use something like Mape or Duckkeeper, like Frost or whatever. But yeah, most things are fine. Just depends on what you've got available. And obviously, as I said yesterday, you can go look for runestones, and you literally just need 4, maybe a couple more runestones, assuming you get like... Because you need... If you're level 1 in Enchanting, you can't use Donato, so if you get that from a runestone, you kind of can't use it. So, but yeah, Jojota is so cheap anyway, so all you need is like 4 runes of the essence runes in that case. Alright, so now we'll talk about the Infinite Archive. So this is actually base game. Even though it's in Necrom, as soon as you create a character, you'll immediately have access to Infinite Archive, and you can travel to this place from any wayshrine immediately when you get into the game. So what you want to do is just travel in here. Now 2 stages is pretty quick, and what will happen is so it's a wave of 3, a wave of 3, and then a wave of 5 for a stage. So each stage will give you about 10 kills. So while you're doing your weapon poisons, you also get defeat enemies, and once you leave Infinite Archive after doing 2 stages, you'll be about halfway through this one. So the rest of that you can just clean up with something else. So that's what I would say. So do these 3 here. The only thing is the weapon poisons will be a little bit slow, but you can do the rest of your weapon poisons while you defeat your enemies. So first thing we need, obviously, is to equip our poisons, and for you to understand how our poisons work. So if you read the tooltip below the damage calculations, so all poisons are applied 20% of the time on weapon abilities. Light attacks, heavy attacks don't really matter because they're only a single target, but weapon abilities is the important bit, because weapon abilities, you can get big AoE ones. For example, using Wall of Elements on the back bar, and then also you can use something like Deadly Cloak to do it on the front bar. So what happens is, when you try and use light attacks, right, you can use those, but the issue with light attacks will be that it's only one target, so it's 20% chance to apply on one person. Whereas with things like Cloak and Wall, they're hitting multiple people at once, so it's a 20% chance when hitting multiple people. So chance is chance, right? You can't predict it at all, but you've got a higher chance of applying your poisons every moment, or every second, when you've got multiple of these AoE abilities just hitting them like this. So what you want to do is, on your front bar, put your poison on. You can put it on both bars, but the issue is that poisons don't stack. So if you have 2 different poisons, they both share the same global cooldown of 10 seconds. And yeah, that's the main reason it's going to take this thing so long, because you've got to wait 10 seconds between each application. And usually 10 seconds is all it takes for that group to be dead most of the time. So, but yeah, so you can't use multiple poisons, so just use the one and just keep it simple, I think, again. Alright, so to start Infinite Archive, you come into this black circle, and it will spawn the enemies. So it'll usually be a ranged enemy and 2 melee enemies. So in this case, you can see you've got the ranged enemy here and the 2 melee enemies over here. So yeah, whenever you hear that ding noise, that's my game applying a poison. So as you're going to hear there, we got 1. But as you can see, 10-second cooldown, the enemy's already dead, so we've got to rely on the next group of enemies. But yeah, so because there's 3 enemies, we've got 3 chances of 20% to apply it, and it works. So yeah, it's much better, I think, doing that over just like hitting with light attacks. Kind of goes counterintuitive towards the class kills weekly, but you can do that in like 5 minutes anyway. It's no big deal. Right, so that's a stage. So there's 3 groups. There's always 2 groups of small, weaker enemies, and then the 3rd stage will have a tougher enemy in it. So maybe if you can, use your ultimates on that round. But like you just quickly focus like 2 of the mini enemies, and it just makes it easier because yeah, the big enemies most of the time aren't too bad. All right, so now you get a verse. So for the second stage, it's going to be you're going to get one of these, and it's going to help. So blocking damage instantly heals your party. That's pretty good. I prefer damage ones. So these verses, they last until the next stage. You get visions when you complete the cycles, which are bosses, that last the whole time. But these verses are a lot stronger. So now this is stage 2, and it's literally the same process, just repeated. Just got different enemies in this case. So in this case, it's Daedra. There's an application. If you're wondering what that is, I'll explain in a minute. It's an add-on making that noise. So for people who watch quite frequently, these are the plant type creatures that can sometimes appear in Infinite Archive. So you can get plant type creatures, the Endeavor done in Infinite Archive if you're trying to multitask, but yeah, just use City Bash 2 most of the time, just because it's unreliable. Okay, we've got another one of those enemies. Yeah, I hate these conduits. They're the ones who apply the negates. Usually try and kill them first if I can remember. Alright, and then we get another one of these. We don't have to grab it because now we've already done everything in Infinite Archive, the 2 stages. And as you can see, we've got 40 enemies done, and we're halfway through the poisons too. So now what I suggest... Oh my gosh, fucking mouth's open. Oh, she stopped. Great. They're learning. Okay, so what we want is a public dungeon. The reason I say public dungeons is it's a lot of weak enemies. You can also use things like group dungeons, or you can do Scourge Catacombs. If you haven't done your dungeons yet, you can do dungeons at the same time, because enemies in there will apply your poisons quite frequently if you use like 2 AoE weapon skills like this. So you could do that, but what I suggest is either just going into a public dungeon, or just going into Scourge, because the enemies there are a little bit weaker than what you'll find in dungeons usually. Now, if you're not worried about poisons from this point, if you've already done one of the other ones and you just want to defeat enemies, you can also just do dolmens. Unlike with the defeating enemies with class abilities or weapon abilities ones, it doesn't matter if you kill them or if someone else kills them. As long as you dealt damage to an enemy, it'll count as defeating enemies. So that one's actually pretty easy to do with dolmens. But I still, if you want to do the poisons one, I think you should still do a public dungeon. So, for example... I'll just do Lion's Den. Usually there's less people here than other public dungeons. Yeah, every zone has a public dungeon. You just got to know where they are. For example, one of the easiest ones to get to is Crow's Wood in Stonefalls, because this way shrine you start with by default. So you just have to go northeast from the way shrine, just down the hill near the shoreline. You'll get there. Just careful of these saber cats. Okay, so some enemies in here. Great. So just like with Infinite Archive, you just put your AoEs on the floor, let them apply poisons. And if you still got to do the weekly for class kills, just use your class abilities to finish them off. If you want to know what skills I would suggest for this from each skill line, Resto and One-Handed Shield, I wouldn't use these just because they have no AoE capabilities whatsoever. Restoration doesn't even have the ability to deal damage. But Unstable Wall, Impulse, these are good. Bow, Volley, and Arrow Spray are really good, because these are the AoE skills. Deadly Blade Cloak and Whirlwind for dual wield is great. Two-handed, you've also got Stampede, the morph of Critical Charge, which applies a ground-targeted AoE, and Cleave is also good as a spammable. Okay, do this again. There we go, another poison applied, and just getting these class kills as well. That's pretty much just like the weekly, except we're using a little bit more weapon skills instead of just class skills. There's the 40 enemies, so yeah, you'll get the 40 enemies way before you'll get the poisons usually. So how many more you need? Just one more. Okay. I'll just let the cooldown go down, and then I'll just try and get it from this person. Yeah, perfect. That was lucky. Okay. So we're done. So that's all the options there. So what is the add-on I'm using that makes the ping noise? And you can see at the bottom left near the speedometer, there's like it shows how many poisons, and it also shows the cooldown. So this add-on's a bit finicky. It's called Poison Tracker. Go down to add-ons. I'll link this in the description for you. Poison Tracker. It only works for the crown poisons. As far as I'm aware, it doesn't work for any of the other poisons. It's old, it's outdated, but the only thing it still does work for is crown poisons, which is also why I suggest using these over anything else, just on the basis that it's just easy to use with this add-on. So you can just keep track of when you're going to be able to apply it next, because that's kind of what's going to stop you from completing this one as quick as possible, just waiting for it to go off cooldown. Because there's like no other way to check the cooldown as far as I'm aware. It says here, but it doesn't give you like a timer anywhere. So yeah, this is the only add-on I've know of that actually still shows it. And the add-on is broken when you first get it. There's a comment in there. I'll post it in the comments, just like a quote of it. Someone goes through how to change the notepad, like it's like the settings thing that you get with the add-on. You have to go into documents, stuff like that, and you have to change like a couple lines in there for it to actually work. But once you do that, it starts working like a charm, using the crown poisons, which is all I really use anyway. So yeah, just got to figure out how that works, and then once you do that, it's smooth sailing from there. All right, so lastly, I'll just talk real quick about killing a player in Cyrodiil. This is only possible in the 4 campaigns here, only 3 if you're max level. As far as it only says Cyrodiil, right? So it's not Imperial City or Battlegrounds, and Battlegrounds would be good because that's usually the place where you're most frequently going to be able to do this just like easily. Because with Cyrodiil, especially in these times where the population is low, it will take you ages trying to find a player. And when you do, usually the ones in low pop will be quite good. But yeah, what I would suggest, try and do this on like prime time when everybody's in PvP, because that way there'll be more people to attack, more people to potentially kill, and there'll also be like groups to follow around. And in those cases, it's generally easier killing a single person in a group, because the important thing about this is, like defeating enemies, you don't actually have to get the kill yourself, you just have to take part in the kill. So if you just light attack a couple of times and the person ends up getting killed by siege or like burst from a bunch of other players, it will still count for you, because it's a takedown. It's an assist, but it's still theoretically a kill for a player in Cyrodiil. So that's what I would suggest. Try not to, obviously if you're good in PvP, do that, but I'd say stick with a group. Just especially grab like a resto, because they're the easiest ones to light attack with how much players tend to dodge and line of sight and stuff like that. They tend to be more reliable. But yeah, just run around, or use siege, like light attack spam or use siege. Those are the 2 ways usually to get participation. Just keep in mind there are groups of players in Cyrodiil that are pretty much unkillable, and if they come through, there's not much you can really do against them, especially on your own. So try to, I know it's kind of hard, but just like, there's like certain groups you'll know by names and shit like that, but like you just have to kind of like just leave or just accept that they're just not going to be killed. Because yeah, there's these groups in Cyrodiil that just basically cross heal each other, and it becomes so impossible to kill them. Even with like heaps of siege, they just can't be killed. And it's just because they've added so many ways for groups just to pretty much like not be killable. Like they just heal and have so many buffs and so many shields. Just But yeah, that's not important. Okay, so if you have any questions about any of this stuff, as always, just let me know. Yeah, it's a pretty easy set. Still would like these ones here are so easy. I wouldn't bother with this. So, all right, thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for your support as always. I'll see you next time, and take care.